the product of current and the area through which the current is passing into the number of turns will also give you the magnetic dipole moment. NIA into B into sine theta is also the expression for torque. I hope you people remember all these things, right? So today what we are going to see is we are going to discuss about a device named as a moving coil galvanometer. I've used this word previously. Do you remember where I used it?
Wheatstone bridge.
The Wheatstone bridge I used. So moving coil galvanometer. Okay. Have you people seen this? Maybe in your 10th grade also you would have learned about this when you learned about magnetic effects of current. Any idea about what this moving coil galvanometer is? Like, you can simply call it as a galvanometer also. Any idea about what this device does?
It will determine if the current is flowing through it or not.
Okay, yeah.
It will find the presence of current.
That's it. So you have two devices which are related to current. One is ammeter and the second is a galvanometer. So generally in physics, if you use the term meter, it is a device which is used to measure something. For example, I call it speedometer, it is used to measure the speed. Ammeter, which is used to measure the amps, which is nothing but current. Voltmeter measures the voltage. But this galvanometer is actually not a measuring device, rather it is a sensitive device. Sensitive device in the sense it is like a sensor. So it will detect whether current is flowing or not, but it cannot exactly tell you how much current is flowing through it. So even let's say there is a circuit across which I have connected a galvanometer, even if there is a small amount of current that is flowing through the wire, the galvanometer will be able to detect that yes, current is flowing through this device. Okay, so that is the main objective of using a galvanometer. In your lab this year, you will actually use it a lot, especially when you're doing the experiments related to meter pitch, finding the series and the parallel resistance, all those things you will be using it. Okay. Similarly, you have other concepts like finding the figure of merit, the current sensitivity of all these devices. You have all those experiments. So that time you will be using this galvanometer. Even in the potentiometer experiment we use, but we didn't discuss potentiometer, right? So that's why I couldn't tell. So today we are going to discuss about what exactly this galvanometer is made up of and how is it going to function. Okay. The reason why we are learning in this chapter is because it works on a particular principle which is related to a concept in this chapter. Okay. So first, when you're discussing or when you're trying to learn about a particular device, you need to first know the principle on which it is working. Okay. So the principle of galvanometer. So before I go to the principle, let me show you how a galvanometer actually looks like. Let me show you how a real-time galvanometer looks like. Have you seen it?
No, sir.
No, right? So this is how a real-time device will look like. So this is a galvanometer. So observe. So this is a galvanometer. Okay, then what is this device? You can observe it. What is written here?
Ammeter.
Actually, this is also a galvanometer. Okay. Then how does an ammeter look like? Now you people have to tell me the difference. Okay, be very careful.
Sir, for ammeter, the pointer will be towards the left.
Yes.
The
For
value starts from 0
galvanometer,
to
it will be
Value
in
starts
the
from
middle.
0. You are able to understand. So ammeter, the value starts from 0. Why is it so?
the
Because
current can't be negative.
Sir, then
Okay,
only
maybe.
we can find the amount of current.
That is right. One of the reasons someone told me current can't be negative. That's one of the reasons. And since you are trying to
The
measure
ammeter won't show directions.
Yes, and that is also there. So if the current is flowing, it will be able to tell you what value of current is flowing. But what does the galvanometer do? If you look at the galvanometer carefully, just a minute, it's disturbing. If you look at a galvanometer, the calibration is done exactly at the center, whereas for an ammeter, it is at the left extreme. So what exactly do you think happens? Then there should be some difference in the principle of it, right? And we'll be learning one more topic also. I'll tell you what are all the topics we are going to learn. First, we will try to learn about a galvanometer. First, we will try to learn about a galvanometer. Okay. Then we will learn about how to convert a galvanometer into an ammeter. Means galvanometer is a sensitive device. We will think of what manipulations we can do to the existing galvanometer circuit such that you can use it like an ammeter as well as a voltmeter also. That is what our objective or topic of discussion for today is. Okay. Before that, we will try to understand galvanometer. Can you people guess on what principle it works? Can you just guess on what principle it works? So what exactly happens when current is flowing through this particular device? What do you think it will? What do you think will happen inside? What do you think are present inside?
Solenoid.
Solenoid, not exactly. Solenoid is not needed here. See, tell me one thing. This line is there, no? What is the name of this line? The one which indicates the value. That line is called as the pointer, right? So when the calibration is done at 0, let us say you have a positive and a negative. Now you have something like this, okay? Say different galvanometers is what you're going to see. Generally, the red colors are used for positive and the black is used for negative. It is
Sir,
given
is there
here.
a magnet inside the galvanometer?
You will have a magnet inside. What does that magnet do?
It deflects when there is an external magnetic field produced due to the
Mag-
electric.
Magnet will not magnet will not deflect on its own. You're almost there. So I'll tell you what exactly is present. So what was the previous concept that we learned? When you place a current carrying loop, when you place when do you speak about torque?
It experiences the force.
Magnetic field.
When you place a current carrying loop, okay, not a conductor. When you place a current carrying loop within within an external magnetic field, it starts experiencing torque. Torque means what? Torque causes what type of motion? Rotation or translatory? Obviously, rotational motion.
Rotation.
So this pointer is there, no? This pointer, once the current flows through the coil which is present inside the galvanometer, the pointer starts deflecting on either of the sides. You're able to understand. So once the current starts flowing, the pointer will start getting deflected. For example, how can you check whether a galvanometer is working perfectly or not? Is suppose you're doing the meter bridge experiment where you have or Wheatstone bridge experiment where you have a galvanometer. You have this positive terminal and negative terminal, no? So what you can simply do is if you take the positive terminal and negative terminal and you connect it across the ends of a battery, then let us assume that the galvanometer's deflection is showing to the right, means it is producing a clockwise rotation. Okay, it is producing a clockwise means it is going to the right. Then if you reverse the polarities, that is if you take the positive of the galvanometer and negative of the galvanometer and connect it across the positive and the negative, the vice versa of the battery, then the deflection has to go in the opposite direction. Because once you reverse the direction of current, what is going to happen according to the mathematical expression we have in our hand? What does it say? So it says torque is equal to m vector cross b vector, right? So once you reverse the direction of current by changing the polarities, you will be changing the direction of the magnetic dipole momentum. Once that happens, the direction of torque will get reversed. Means if the pointer, once it is showing a deflection to the right, if you reverse the polarities across the ends of the galvanometer, it will start showing a deflection to the left. If this kind of working is not happening with respect to a galvanometer, the one which you have got while doing the experiment is a default one. So is with a defect one. Okay, so you have to replace it immediately. This is one of the tests made. So what exactly happens inside is this pointer is rotating. I'm using the word rotating. So how is it able to rotate? It is because it is experiencing torque. When will it experience a torque? When there is magnetic dipole moment produced. When is magnetic dipole moment produced? When current is flowing through it. That is why this device is used to sense whether current is there or not. So if you look at it, there are no units given with respect to this. For example, if you look at this device, milliampere means if the pointer is starting at 20, you can report the answer saying that the current flowing through the device is 20 milliampere. Whereas if this here, it is going and stopping at 20, you cannot say 20 G. G is not a unit. G just stands for the device name. So 20, it is the number of divisions. As I told you, this is a sensitive device. This has certain important parameters associated with it, which is important for your lab perspective also. So listen to it carefully. If there is any doubt, immediately get it clarified. Okay. So I hope it is clear till this step. No doubt, right? Is there any doubt till here?
Awesome.
All right. Okay. Let's see. So let's logically think. Let's logically think one fact. I told you it works on the principle. So write it down. It works on the principle of. It works on what principle? It works on the principle of torque. Who will experience the torque? Experienced by whom?
Pointer.
Pointer is connected to whom? The pointer will rotate, but pointer is connected.
loop.
It is a current carrying loop. The pointer is an external factor that we are able to see, but what is inside the galvanometer? It will be a current carrying loop. Current will not flow through the pointer. Don't get confused. Torque experienced by current carrying loop placed in where? Placed in external magnetic field. So we have the principle itself has given half of the answer for our construction. So what is that you need for a galvanometer? You definitely need two external magnets. One is a north pole and the other is a south pole, inside which you need to place a coil, and this coil should be connected to the pointer, and the pointer should show the deflections. You're able to understand? So this is the simplest diagram that is possible. Now let's try to look at the three-dimensional view of it. How does it look? Okay. So you'll not be able to hear, just observe. I'll explain it. So if you observe a galvanometer, you're able to see the coil. There is a cylindrical portion, right? That cylindrical portion can be any substance, any cylindrical portion around which the coil is wound. Okay, the coil is wound, and you're able to see a screw here. I'm placing my cursor there. You're able to see a screw here.
Yes, sir.
That screw is the one which is connected to the coil and creates a connection to the pointer. Now, when they rotate it, observe how it will look like. Okay, so when you see from the top view, how does it look? So you're able to observe till this point, right? Now see, what is given here? A galvanometer is a device that is used to detect current. So it's a sensor. With appropriate modification, it can be converted into an ammeter or an voltmeter, depending on what requirements you have. That I will explain later. As of now, concentrate on the principle of this. If you want me to repeat any part of the video, let me know. Okay, construction C. So this is the cylindrical portion which you see from the top, point, which is connected to the pointer. So cylindrical portion has a coil wound around it in the form of a rectangle. So for construction, you have a light rectangular frame on which the coil of a thin copper wire is wound and pivoted between the two almost frictionless pivots. So you have a copper wire, right? So now you are able to see this diagram. So if you look at the magnets, what shape do the magnets take?
Rectangle.
Rectangle.
Is it rectangular? See, which part of the magnet is producing the magnetic field? Is it the inner part or the outer part? You're looking at the outer part is rectangle.
Inner part.
Inner part is which shape?
Circular.
Hemispheric.
It's a concave shape actually. Yeah, these are called as concave shaped magnets. There is a reason why it is done also. That also I'll tell you why it is done. Okay. So because questions are asked based on this, why this concave shape is there. But you need to understand the concept on it. So again, 0 to here they have taken the reading as 15. Depending on the requirement, you can control the number of divisions. So don't worry about the number of divisions. Okay. So these are the two magnets within which what is placed? A current carrying coil. A current carrying coil is placed across the device. So once the current starts flowing, the pointer will get deflected like this. Okay. And one more important point is the cylindrical core which is used as a soft iron. That also I'll tell you what is the reason for it. So the reason for this is given only in the next chapter, but I will give you an outline so that you can have that point in your mind. Right? So what happens is, this is how the internal structure of a galvanometer will look like. So once the current is passing through the galvanometer, so see, observe. You have placed these magnets, no? See, these magnets, how will they start producing the magnetic field? Is magnetic field is always produced perpendicular to it. Okay, the magnetic field will get produced perpendicular to the magnet. They get generated like this. So this type of a magnetic field has a technical name called as radial magnetic field. So the question which I told you they will ask is, why is radial? So what is the advantage of having a radial magnetic field? So indirectly they are asking about what is the reason for the concavity of the magnets. So what is the reason for radial magnetic field? I'll tell you. Okay. So once these radial magnetic fields are produced, so in that external magnetic field, once you are able to see the blue color animation which is being shown, look at the wire, okay? Look at the blue color portion that is moving. That is the direction of current. So current is flowing through that. Once the current is flowing through it, okay, in the magnetic field, what will happen? Obviously, it should start experiencing a torque. It starts rotating. Okay. So are you able to understand till this point? Right? Now what will happen is, see, now what will happen is, now we need to think of the technical difficulties that you will have. So let us say the pointer here has gone, let's say, to the stem when you pass the current. Okay, the pointer will go and stop here. Am I right? Oh, sorry, I didn't show. So the pointer will go and stop here. So it is undergoing some angular displacement theta. Right? Now the question that we have in our mind is, if the current is removed, what should happen to the coil? So till now we were saying that when current is passed through the coil, it will start experiencing torque. Okay, current is passed through the coil and it starts experiencing the torque. Now if the batteries are removed, if it becomes an open circuit, what do you think will happen to this pointer?
That's to zero.
That's for 0 position.
If it has to come back to its original position, what should happen? Let's take a similarity from this. Okay, so let's say I have a spring here, which is so let's say a spring which is not elongated. Okay, when I suspend the mass, what happens to it? When I suspend a load to it, it gets elongated, let's say, by a distance x naught. So what should happen immediately after I remove this m? If I remove this m, what should happen? The spring should develop a force within itself. Yeah, restoring force will be created, which is kx, which will try to bring back the spring to its original position. Sometimes it might succeed, sometimes it might fail, depending on the nature of the spring. The spring is weak enough and the load is very much high, it would have lost its elastic property. Okay, assuming everything is within the control, what will happen? There will be a restoring force which is created, which will try to bring back the spring to its original length. Am I clear in this? In a similar way, how will the pointer know that it is supposed to come back to its original position? What is that we need to add to the construction? What is it we need to add to the
Restoring torque.
You need to create a restoring torque, but we cannot sit inside the device and do that. No, every time we don't push it with our hand; it happens automatically. So, what device can you choose such that it is able to come back to its original position? So here, what did I use? What is the device which has? I used a spring, right?
Spring.
So here you use a spring which is in a spiral path, which is called as a hairspring. So what is the work of this hairspring here? It is to bring back, to create a restoring torque such that it brings back the pointer to 0 when there is no load on it. When I say load, when there is no current flowing through the circuit. Here I'm talking about electrical load. When I talk about mass, I'm talking about mechanical load. Okay, so keeping all these factors in mind, now if we look at your textbook, the diagram will be more clear. Okay, so I have answered why there is a concave shape that is present. It is to create the radial magnetic field. Why radial magnetic field? I'll answer. Okay. So due to the radial, you are able to see these black color lines. No, these are all the radial magnetic fields. So these are all the radial magnetic fields which are present. Okay. Then you are able to see a coil here. The coil part is written here. That also I've shown you the copper portion. And there is something like SP written, no? That SP is what is called as a hairspring. Okay, that SP is called as the hairspring. So it will try to bring back to its original position. Okay, so this is what is a schematic diagram. It is not the exact diagram. You cannot. It is not expected also. This is what is the principle and the simplest diagram which we can understand on which a galvanometer works. Okay, and obviously this is a pointer. This is the scale, and you have a permanent magnet. Due to the permanent magnet, there is a uniform radial magnetic field getting generated. Okay. So if you're clear with all these points, I would suggest you to write down one important note. So under galvanometer, how you prepare the notes for this particular concept is, first write down its principle. It works on the principle of torque experienced by a current carrying loop placed in external magnetic field. Right. So you need not sit and draw this diagram. You can copy it later. Now write down the reason for having a radial magnetic field. Reason for having radial magnetic field. Write it down. Due to the radial magnetic field, the angle between, due to the radial magnetic field, the angle between the magnetic dipole moment, the angle between the magnetic dipole moment and the external magnetic field will always be, I'm repeating it again, due to the radial magnetic field, the angle between the magnetic dipole moment and the external magnetic field will always be 90 degrees, as a result of which the torque experienced by the coil, will always be maximum. Okay. So the reason is like this. So below that you can write down the mathematical expression. Torque is equal to mv sine theta. So here who is going to decide the maximum value? If I say sine theta is deciding the maximum value, when will sine theta be maximum? Only when the value of theta is equal to 90 degrees. So mathematically that is the reason. In terms of physics, the angle between the magnetic dipole moment and the external field should be 90 degrees. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we have a small derivation. So based on which we will be seeing different terms. Okay, let me see what they are. So I would suggest you write it along with me. So due to current, okay, due to current within whom? Within the coil. Due to current within the coil, what is the torque produced in it? What is the torque experienced by the current carrying loop? You already know the answer. NIAB sine theta, but here what is the value of theta due to the radial magnetic field? 90. So we always write it. So I write it as NIBA. I will write it down since theta is equal to 90 degrees and the hint is radial magnetic field. Okay. Let us say this much torque is able to put the pointer, let's say at after 10 divisions starting from 0, there is some angle that is created here, right? Or I will call this as phi according to the textbook. I'll take this as phi because theta is used for sine theta. So I'll call this as deflection. Now, due to this deflection, what will get created within the pointer? There will be some tension due to the spring. So there will be some restoring torque that will get settled in the spring. So what should be the value of the restoring torque according to this expression? So if I talk about a straight line, a linear spring like this, what will be the restoring force that is created? It is some spring constant multiplied by the distance to which it is elongated. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Similarly, in a spring, okay, if it is getting elongated, what will be the restoring torque created in that particular material? It has to depend something on the angle through which it is deviated. So can I say that the restoring torque, observe this point clearly, that the restoring torque is directly proportional to the deflection that has occurred in the galvanometer's pointer compared to its initial position, that is the initial vertical position. So then I will write this torque as some k into phi, where this k is called as the spring constant. Actually, it's not called spring constant, we call it as torsional constant. So torsional is a word which is used for rotation. So for a linear spring, you have something called a spring constant. For a circular spring, you have something called as torsional constant, right? So torque is equal to Ni into BA, that is created due to the current, and torque is also equal to K phi. This is created because of the tension created within the spring. So at equilibrium, what should happen? When both are getting stopped, what should happen? At equilibrium, can I say K phi should be equal to Ni into BA? So NIBA is the forward torque. K into phi is the restoring torque. So K phi should be equal to NIB into A. So can I write phi is equal to NIB into A divided by the torsional constant? So this is going to be the extent to which the spring is going to get deflected. The pointer is going to get deflected on application of different values of current and different values of magnetic field. So what you can do, if suppose you want to create a big galvanometer, let's say from 0 to 30 divisions, then you need to produce more deflection, right? So more deflection means you choose to pass more amount of current. You can increase the number of turns. You can increase the magnetic field of the magnets that you're using. You can increase the area of the coil, or you can decrease the torsional constant of the spring. So this will help you if at all you want to design your own galvanometer. Is it clear? No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now comes an important point. See, phi is equal to, I'm rearranging the equation, NBA divided by K, you can call it as kappa, into I. Okay. So if I bring the I to the other side, observe what is happening. Phi divided by I is equal to N into B into A divided by kappa. Okay. So if I look at it in a basic perspective, okay, like I'll tell you how you are supposed to observe the terms in physics. For example, I'll give you an idea in the same manner. Think about this. If I ask you, what does meter per second mean?
Distance by time.
It is distance by time. You call it as velocity, or you can call it as speed if you call it as distance, right? If I ask you what is velocity, what are all the different ways in which you will try to define? You will say it is the displacement of the object divided by the time. You can say it like this. In a basic point, you can say displacement by time. I use a word like this. Or what will I say? I will use the word rate of change of displacement. I will use dx by dt. Or there is another way. I can also use the word displacement per unit time. This unit is very important. So what do you mean by displacement per unit time?
Displacement made in 1 second.
1 second. It can be 1 second or 1 minute or whatever it is. Unit time is what I can say. Right. So meter per second means in 1 second, if I'm able to calculate how much distance the object is moving, I can measure a parameter for it called as velocity. I can measure a parameter called velocity for it. Right. So whenever you write terms in physics, if the terms in the numerator and denominator are different terms, then the term which is in the denominator is given a word called unit. In a similar way, here what did I say phi as? Deflections of the pointer. I is the current. Right. So this phi by I has something to tell us. What is it? So it tells us that. So it tells us that how much deflection I am able to create when I pass unit current through it. Can I say it like this? So the deflection, I'm giving my own definition to it. Deflection produced per unit current. Can I call it like this? So deflection produced by unit current is what is NBA divided by K. That is according to mathematics. But what is the main functionality of this device? It is to sense whether the current is flowing through this device or not. So this deflection produced per unit current is what is called as the current sensitivity of this particular device. Okay. So if somebody asks you what is the sensitivity of the galvanometer that you're using, because every sensor is going to be sensitive, right? So what is the current sensitivity of it? You have to say it is the amount of deflection produced per unit current flowing through it. So this is going to be the simplest definition, right? There is the reciprocal of it. Okay. Reciprocal of current sensitivity. See, this is the one you do in your lab also. If at all you people have your lab manual in hand, you can verify it later. The reciprocal of current sensitivity is phi by I, that is K divided by N into B into A. Can you tell me what is the significance, just like how I thought for meter per second and for current sensitivity? Can you tell me what is the significance of this particular unit?
Current per unit deflection.
Current per unit deflection. No, actually the meaning of this is, if you have a pointer like this, if this is 0, after the 0 you will have the first division. No, the meaning of this is, the meaning of this particular physical quantity is, I'll tell the what is the name of it. If the pointer is at 0, if it has to, so the least count is one division. So if you need to produce exactly one division, okay, if you need to produce a deflection of exactly one division, how much current should I pass? So try to understand the difference. They are almost the same, but concentrate. Here, you can pass any amount of current you want. Or you can say, sorry, not any amount. If you pass 1 ampere of current here, how much deflection is produced by that particular galvanometer is what is called as current sensitivity. Whereas here, what am I trying to say? Here I'm trying to say, how much current should I pass so that the galvanometer is exactly experiencing a deflection of how much value? Exactly 1 unit. Means it should exactly stop at its next value. If suppose the pointer had been at 15, then you should pass the current such that it stops at 16. Then how much current you're supposed to pass through that particular galvanometer? It is nothing but, to put it in very simple terms, it is called as the reciprocal of current sensitivity. The technical name for it is figure of merit. Okay, figure of merit, which is generally represented by the symbol capital K. So the reciprocal of current sensitivity is also called as figure of merit. But what is the significance of figure of merit? To produce a deflection of 1 unit, how much current should I pass? If you are able to answer that question, that is the figure of merit. Okay. Next, what happens is, if I see the SI unit here, it is going to be the number of divisions. We don't use the word deflection. The number of divisions per ampere. Then what will be the SI unit of figure of merit?
Ampere.
It will be ampere per division. Okay, that is going to be the. Are people able to understand this? Right. There's a very important concept. Questions will be asked based on this. And this might be your Viva question also.
Sir, I by 5 is only figure of merit, no?
I by 5 is figure of merit. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Right. Shall we move on? So, similar to current sensitivity, you have another term which is called as voltage sensitivity. Okay, that also I'll tell you. Say, suppose a question like this. Define voltage sensitivity, what will you say? So, it is similar to current sensitivity only, but you need to do a small change. What is voltage sensitivity?
Phi by V.
Deflections.
The amount of deflection produced per unit volt. So when you apply 1 volt, how much deflection is produced is what is called as voltage sensitivity. So this is going to be phi divided by V is nothing but I into R, where R is the resistance of whom? Resistance of what device are we talking about?
Galvanometer.
Galvanometer.
This is the resistance of the galvanometer. This is equal to, where is phi by I? It is NBA divided by K, no? It will be NBA divided by K into R. That is only difference. Is it clear? So this is phi by V, which we call it as voltage sensitivity. There is no symbol and all for it. You can just write it down. So unit will be divisions per volt. Okay. So if this is done, we can go to the next concept. So this is all about a galvanometer. Okay. I'll just give you a minute time. You can go through all the concepts. If there is any concept which is confusing you, let me know. If you're not able to speak, you can let me know in the chat box also.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
in a galvanometer, why is the direction of the current reversed?
It is not reversed always. I never told it will be reversed. See, sometimes what can happen if suppose you are connecting an alternating source. Sir, could you scroll just a minute? So suppose you are connecting an alternating source. Okay, what will happen is its direction keeps reverse. Kritika, where should I stop? 1 minute. Where should I stop? Voltage sensitivity. Okay. So you asked me, right? See, if I connect a DC source, no issue with it. DC source is going to be unidirectional. Once the current is flowing through the galvanometer, it is going to show a deflection only to the right. If at all you connect it across an AC source, then you can verify whether you have a direct current or an alternating current. This you would have learned in your 10th standard, right? So in the process of induction, you would have learned about a generator, right? There are two types of generators that we have. One is a DC generator, and next is an AC generator. AC generator you learn this year. So what does an AC generator do? It keeps reversing its direction. So if you need to sense whether the direction is getting reversed or not, you need to use a galvanometer. So that is why it's not like you keep reversing it every time. I'm not sure if what you asked actually. So reversing in the sense, I told you that reversing has to be done only when you need to verify whether the galvanometer is working or not. That is even before you start connecting it across the apparatus, you need to ensure that it is working or not. That is why I told you reverse the polarity sensing.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Figure of merit is used for calculating what value? Figure of merit only, man. It is not used for calculating anything. Figure of merit is a property of the galvanometer. Okay, just like how you say current sensitivity, figure of merit is also a particular value. See, maybe I can rephrase your question like this. Instead of saying where is it used, I can tell you like this. 1 minute. Figure of merit is used for see, it is used. It is signifying something. What does it signify? It will tell you how you can control the current such that you are able to make the galvanometer flow only through particular points. If suppose I want to make it flow through 2 points, then what should be the figure of merit? It should be 2 times this value. Sometimes if I want to make it, sometimes in the questions they will give you, when you solve a problem, they'll give you that the sensitivity of this particular device is these many amperes per second, ampere per division. That time, if you multiply with the number of divisions you have, that will give you the amount of current that is flowing through the circuit. Anyways, those problems are not asked in CBSE, but if you want, I can definitely explain. So what exactly is phi? Phi is the deflection. Phi is the deflection. So observe. So this is my initial position. So with respect to initial position, how much angle I am making, that is what is called as phi. Somebody was asking me. Somebody called sir. Who was that? The galvanometer is used as a sensor. Why is the present? Why is there a present of units like 10, 20, etc.? It is not unit. It is just divisions. Kritika, it is the question is, if a galvanometer is used as a sensor, why is there a presence of units? It's not unit. I never told you, no. I told it as divisions. That's it. It's not units. Why do we change the polarities initially? You need not change it initially, man, to verify whether the device is working or not. So that is when you do in the lab, you'll understand, sir, why magnets are concave shaped to produce a radial magnetic field. Kritika, I hope you got your answer. There are no units. I never told units are there. Rahul, I hope you got your answer. It is because of the radial magnetic field. Next, Naveen, why do we change the polarities initially? To verify whether the galvanometer which you got for that particular experiment is working or not. Anything else?
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
sir, in NCERT they have mentioned something as a shunt resistance.
You need not
Explain
worry
what is
about that is next topic. You need not worry about it. I have not
Okay.
gone to that point. Okay. So this is all about galvanometer. Shunt resistance has something to do with ammeter. Don't worry about it. So if this is clear, I'll proceed to the next topic. I'm just waiting for. Okay. So I hope most of the questions are covered in it. Okay. Now we will talk about the conversion of galvanometer into ammeter and voltmeter. So observe it clearly. Conversion of galvanometer into, first I can call it as an ammeter and voltmeter. So voltmeter is actually easy, so I'll fix that first. Means what we are exactly going to do is we are going to convert a sensitive device into a measuring device. Okay. So for that, what you can do is, generally the symbol for a galvanometer is a circle like this and a G. This you know, right? This I've already discussed in the third chapter. So first, let me talk about voltmeter. So what does an voltmeter do? Obviously, it will measure the potential difference, right? Now, next question. How is a voltmeter connected across a particular device? You connected parallel. Third question. Is voltmeter going to have less resistance or high resistance?
High resistance.
Very high resistance, because the voltmeter should not absorb any current. That is what an ideal voltmeter at least has. So resistance should be very high. In fact, I can say very high. Ideally speaking, it is infinite. It is not possible practically, but we say it is infinite. Because voltmeter cannot measure EMF only, we use a device called as potentiometer. But as of now, you concentrate on what a voltmeter is. Voltmeter is a device which is, an ideal voltmeter is a device which has approximately an infinite resistance. So what do we have in our hand? We have a galvanometer, right? So this galvanometer, let's say the resistance of the galvanometer is G. What I'm saying? The resistance of the galvanometer is capital G. So I'm using the G for the symbol as well as for the resistance. So don't get confused. If you generally do the experiment, no, when you do the experiment, you will get the resistance of the galvanometer somewhere around 100 ohms, something like that. In real time, you will get it, and you will do it in the lab also. You have that experiment. Now, if I want to make it infinite, what should I do? The only thing I'm giving you is an external resistor. I'll give you, if you ask me, I'll give you an external resistor in hand. You can connect that external resistor across the galvanometer in whatever means you want. My whole objective is, I want to increase the resistance of this galvanometer. How can I do it? Suppose I have one resistor in my hand, another resistor in my hand. Let's say I have 1 ohm and 2 ohm. If suppose I want to increase the resistance of the combination, then what should I do? Connect another. Very good, Gabriel. Yeah. Connect. Yeah. So you need to connect them in series. Gabriel, you are right. So you need to connect them in series, right? So I will give you a resistor. You connect a high resistor in series with this. Okay. Once you do this, then this particular device is what is called as a voltmeter. As simple as that. Means what has happened? You have connected a series resistor of whatever value you want in series resistor in series with the galvanometer, such that the combination of this galvanometer and the series resistor put together behaves like a voltmeter. Okay, this is how you do a conversion of a galvanometer into a voltmeter. Okay. And the reason is very simple, because the voltmeter has very high resistance. Okay. Now see, obviously we'll connect this galvanometer across whom? Across some device to measure the potential difference. You will connect it across, let's say, I have RL. RL stands for load resistance. If I connect it across a load resistance, whatever is the potential difference occurring between the points A and B will be the same potential difference occurring between the points C and D. I hope this point is known to you people, right? Let's say the current that is flowing through the galvanometer is IG, and this IG is what is called as, do people remember what it is? I've explained this also in Wheatstone Bridge.
Current flowing through.
Current flowing through the galvanometer.
I gave it. I told something with full. Did I use it or not? Full scale deflection current. So this is called as full scale deflection current. Means how much? See, suppose there is a galvanometer in your hand which is between 0 and 30 division. What is the full scale deflection that is possible? It is 30, right? So the current when you pass through a galvanometer, wherever the pointer is stopping at 30 divisions, the amount of current that you have sent at that particular instant is what is called as the full scale deflection current. So you should always have this point in mind. IG generally stands for full scale deflection current. Okay. Now let's say I want to design a voltmeter whose maximum potential difference value is 5 volt. Means if I have a voltmeter like this, 0, I'm designing a device like this. I want a device whose maximum potential difference I can measure is 5 volt. For example, I can put it like this. So if I ask you about this ammeter, what is the maximum value it can measure? 100 watt.
Milliamp.
It can measure 100 milliampere. Similarly, I can think of a voltmeter where I'm able to measure till 5 volt, 10 volt. It is up to me to design it. Right? That is based on the requirement. So when I have a full scale deflection, let's say the range of the potential difference measured by it is 0 to V. Okay, this galvanometer is able to measure 0 to V. Then let me call the potential difference across AB as V. Okay, so if I tell you, I'll give you this galvanometer. Okay, I know the resistance. Listen to it carefully. I'm telling you, I know the resistance of the galvanometer. It is 100 ohm. I'm keeping it in your hand. Okay, I'm saying I want you to design a voltmeter and give it to me such that my voltmeter's maximum value that is able to measure is 5 volt. Then I ask you a question: what will be the series resistor? What will be the value of the series resistor that you will choose across this particular combination? If I ask you a question like this, what are you going to do? So what is the requirement I told you? I told you the potential difference between A and B should be V. It can be 5 volt or 10 volt or 5 millivolt. It is up to me. Right? What else do I know? I know the resistance of the galvanometer, G. I've told that value also. Okay. Now I want you to find what is the value of RS in terms of the required value, in terms of known value, and the full scale deflection current. How will you do it? It is nothing but simple Ohm's law. Can I say VAB is equal to IG into capital G plus RS? Right. So VAB is the value of V, that is equal to IG into capital G plus RS. So what is that we need? We need the value of RS. So V divided by IG minus capital G will be equal to RS. So this is the value of the resistance that you need to choose for this particular combination. So this is the formula. So how they will ask us, what should be the value of the series resistance you need to connect across a 100 ohm galvanometer such that it is able to be converted to a voltmeter of 5 volt. And they'll give you the full scale deflection current also. It will be in terms of some milliampere. Are you people able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You can copy this. So sometimes they'll ask the question like this: how is a Kelvin meter converted to voltmeter? Means you have to write all the theory part which I explained it to you. Okay. So if you're clear with this, I can go to the next part. So what is the obvious step? Next thing is converting a Kelvin meter into an ammeter. Ammeter. Right. So what are we supposed to do? So I'll ask the same set of questions. Ammeter should be connected.
Series.
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 Okay. Next, ammeter should have low resistance or high resistance.
Low resistance.
Low resistance. So if you have a galvanometer in your hand, if you have to reduce the equivalent resistance of it, then you need to connect an external resistor in
Parallel.
yes. Good. So you need to connect. So ammeter. Okay. Ideal ammeter has how much? Ideal ammeter's resistance is how much?
Zero.
Ideally, it is 0. Okay. So what is that I have in my hand? I have a galvanometer. So I need to connect. What? I need to connect a resistor in parallel with this, and this resistor is what is called as shunt resistance. Somebody asked me, what is the shunt? So shunt means parallel, means you're trying to divert something. That is the basic meaning of shunt. Okay. So if you're able to connect something like this whole device is what is called as a ammeter. Okay. This whole device is what is called as an ammeter. That's it. This is the simplest circuit possible. So when I asked you for a voltmeter, what did I say? I told you I have a galvanometer of 100 ohm resistance. I want you to connect it across a particular resistor such that it is able to measure 5 volt. I'll reverse that volt and convert it to ampere. The same thing again. I have a 100 ohm galvanometer in my hand. I'm giving this to your hand. You need to choose a resistor and connect it in parallel such a way that you're able to convert it to an ammeter which is able to measure 3 amperes of current. Then what are you going to do?
Ig into 1 by G plus 1 by S.
Let's see. So the total current that is supposed to measure is I. That I according to us is 3 ampere. Now, according to the junction rule, what happens at this point?
Divides.
Divides. So here how much current should flow? It should always be the full scale deflection current. Then here what should be the value? It will be I minus Ig. Right. So how is the galvanometer and this connected? They are in parallel. So in parallel, what is same?
Voltage.
Potential difference. So the potential drop across each device is same. So Ig into capital G will be equal to I minus Ig into S. So what should be the value of S that I need to connect? Ig into capital G divided by I minus Ig. That's it. Derivation part is very simple. Ig into capital G divided by I minus Ig. One common mistake that happens is when I say galvanometer to be converted to ammeter, you should say there is a shunt resistance that is connected across the galvanometer, or you can say it like this also. There is a shunt resistance which is connected in parallel to the galvanometer is also accepted. Okay, but for a voltmeter, you are not supposed to say that there is a shunt resistance which is connected in series. Just because I wrote S here, don't call it a shunt resistance. Shunt itself means parallel. Okay. So do not use saying that shunt resistor is connected in series for a galvanometer. The shunt should not come. You should use the term like this. A resistor of high resistance should be connected in series with a galvanometer acceptor. Okay. So this is one common mistake I see in the papers. So don't do that. So Ig into capital G divided by I minus Ig. So this is the value. So this is all about galvanometer, converting a galvanometer into a voltmeter and an ammeter. Okay. most of the chapter is over. We will do one problem. There is cyclotron alone pending. It's like you can actually take it as the chapter is over because cyclotron is very simple concept. Let's do this example for us to understand the concept better. So example 4.13, observed. In the circuit, the current is to be measured, okay. In the circuit 4.27, the current is to be measured, okay. What is the value of the current? The ammeter shown is a galvanometer with resistance Rg equal to 60 ohm. Secondly, is a galvanometer described in, but converted into, is a galvanometer described in A, but converted into ammeter by shunt resistance R is equal to 0.02. Third, if it is an ideal ammeter with zero resistance. Okay. So what is, it's a simple question only. Observe. So there is a battery which is connected across a 3 ohm resistor and your work is to measure the current through it, right? So what is the value of the current? The ammeter shown here is just a galvanometer. So if this is a galvanometer whose resistance is how much? Rg is equal to 60 ohm. It is like the 60 ohm and 3 ohm, how are they connected?
Series.
They are in series. So the current measured will be, in the case A, I will be equal to V by R. V is 3. This 3 volt is being supplied across how much resistance? The total resistance of 63.
63 ohms.
So 1 divided by 21 ampere. You can actually leave it in fraction also. 1 divided by 21 ampere is the answer. Second, so if suppose this galvanometer is converted into ammeter by connecting a shunt resistance of 0.02 ohm, then what would be the value of the current? Okay, so try to understand. It is like this: you have a galvanometer, shunt resistance of how much value is connected? 0.02, and this is 60 ohm. This is 3 ohm, and this is 3 volt. If this is the case, what would have been the value of the current that is flowing through this device? So I will be equal to V. The same 3 is supplied across. This 3 ohm is connected in series with this combination. Right? Can I write it like this? So can I write it as 3 plus R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R. Please don't look at the solution. So what I did is I is equal to V by R only. But what is going to be the equivalent resistance? 3 ohm is connected in series with this combination. So 3 divided by this value, these many ampere will be the answer for part B. What will be the answer for part C?
1.
I will be equal to 3 by 3 because they are saying it is an ideal ammeter, so it has zero resistance. So it will be 1. It's an easy one, right? So this is all about the conversions. And maybe next class I will give you some problems based on this, which are asked in the exam. So this 4.10, you can take it as homework. Since I've already given you the formula, you yourself can solve this, not a big deal. Okay. One point to be kept in mind is the spring constants, means the torsional constants of both the springs which are going to be the same. Okay, this point has to be kept in mind. And they're asking you to measure the current sensitivity and voltage sensitivity. You know the formula, just apply it. So other things are easy only. 4.1, the 11th one is based on R is equal to MV by QB. This is based on frequency formula, QB divided by 2 pi m. This also I have taught. This is a problem based on torque. That's it. So only cyclotron is pending. As I told you, cyclotron is not a very big concept. So you start concentrating on this. I'll give you this whole week time. In next week, the week next to it, okay, the next Saturday, Not this Saturday. The next Saturday you have a test in this chapter. Or next weekend, let it not be Saturday. I'll decide the date and tell you. You will have a test in this. Okay. See, this concept is there. If you go through the textbook, this concept actually doesn't belong to this chapter. It is the starting of the next chapter. That is why I didn't explain it here. It is the starting part of the 5th chapter, so don't worry about it. The other parts are completed. First, read my notes, then you read the textbook. Okay. So that's it. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, just wait for a minute. Don't log off.